Hello and welcome to another episode of Death by Bunjie. It's still January. It is still cold. In fact, it's so cold out there that there are people ice fishing on our local river. Here in the kingdom of Bunjie, people are ice fishing on moving water. The Susquehanna River. You are a dedicated fisherman if you're going to go out and ice fish on the Susquehanna River, a moving body of water. Plus, that tells us it's pretty cold. A good time to stay inside and look at some crossbows. There wasn't a lot of new products on the market this year. Still have a couple more I'm going to look at. There's a new knock I want to look at. But we've looked at scopes. We've looked at new crossbows. We've looked at 10-point. We've looked at Killer Instinct. We've looked at Excalibur. Now we're going to look at a couple of questions people ask me about different crossbow companies that we haven't talked about here on Death by Bunjie. Am I right in thinking that KI is a rebranded and remodeled Hori-Zone product range from Taiwan? Is the Hori-Zone range available under its own brand name in the USA? Now, I think by range, I went and looked up this Hori-Zone, never talked about that before. Really didn't even know this company existed. Hadn't really talked about this. Don't know anybody who shoots a Hori-Zone. Kind of a neat name. Hori-Zone, probably horizontal. Get it? Hori-Zone, horizontal. Limbs, crossbow. I guess that's where that's coming from. When I look at their webpage, they've got a very robust webpage full of all kinds of neat things. We've got a Series 2, 380 feet per second, 190-pound draw weight. It's moving awful fast. Lots of graphics here. We've got this other one here, the Rampage, and I think the narrow Rampage is probably the crossbow that Mr. Matthew HG is referring to. The Hori-Zone product range probably is Rampage, probably had an autocorrect or something like that, and that's what we're dealing with. So let's take a look at that. We're going to look at crossbow here, and we've got recurves, and we've got compounds. We're not going to look at these recurves because I'm betting we'll look at them real quick just to verify. But when we look at these are going to be pretty underpowered little things that we are not going to talk about as crossbow hunters in 2025. We don't go underpowered. 275 plus feet per second, 185 pound draw weight. That's all fine and dandy, but we're not about limiting ourselves with broadhead choices and arrow choices, all those sorts of things in 2025, are we? We are not. We are about, in 2025, we are here to look at modern crossbows. It's January. We're looking at modern stuff. The compounds here, we'll look at those. And we've got Orions. Look at all these new releases. The Orion IV, 3, 2, and the Series 3 and the Series 2. Interesting that they are all new releases. They've released both the Series 2 and the Series 3 and the Orion 2, 3, and 4 all at the same time. They're all new releases. Let's look at this Orion just out of curiosity. I do see that Rampage there down the corner. I didn't miss it. That's the one we're going to sort of answer this question, or at least address this question. I don't know if you get answers to questions on Death by Bunjie. This channel is more about asking questions, getting us to think about and talk about crossbows and think about crossbow concepts. It's a sort of the big picture of crossbow hunting is what I look for. And there's hopefully some fun information along the way. But the Orion IV, this is a modern looking crossbow. We do have that cantilever design for the scope. For the scope of this sort, that is totally appropriate and okay. Got AR-15 style grips. That is a Killer Instinct thing. That's what they like on the Killer Instincts. And it does look like we could probably detach that AR-15 style grip, take that off of there and put on something else if we wanted to, whether it's a custom AR-15 grip or whether it is a 1911 grip like I like, anything like that. Got lots of options. Pretty narrow looking crossbow. It does look like a modern crossbow. 430 feet per second plus. Interesting. Now, Killer Instinct up to 430 feet per second is what they would say. This company, 430 feet per second plus. That tells me really it's a 435 feet per second crossbow probably, but we don't know the arrow weight or anything like that at this point. We do have a draw weight of 225 pounds, which is pretty high. That's pretty high. That tells me these limbs are drawn back pretty tight. There's a lot of stress on these limbs to get that 225 pound draw weight. And these are short, stubby little limbs too. Those are not long limbs. It is 10 and a half, a little bit more uncocked to axle. So it's probably 12, 13 inches wide to the outside of the cams. Power stroke of 15 inches and kinetic energy is 160.1 foot-pounds. That's a very specific number and gotta do it. We're going to Death by Bunjie, and we're going to go to calculators. And at the request of a friend of Bunjie, did you notice how when I clicked on calculators, it went straight to the calculators? I took out some of the fluff. Somebody commented, you're a guy that likes efficiency, so why does your website make me go through all these steps? Well, now it doesn't. made sense to me, really. When I introduced the calculators, it was part of a series of videos that we did. It was part of a live stream that we did and a long video that we did. A whole bunch of different things. It was part of sort of a year of Death by Bunjie. It took to put these calculators together. And now, providing them this way on the website, times change, right? Now we don't need that whole backstory. You can go back and watch all those videos, but I really don't need to lead into it the way I did before on the website. So that's why I go straight to those now. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to crossbow. There's a little dude on here that says arrow weight used to get manufacturer specs. And I love this calculator because they don't tell us. They don't tell us. It's a secret. They don't advertise it. A lot of them don't. If we look on here, though, we do have two pieces of information we can use. The 160.1 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. If we go back to the calculators, we know that is 161.1 tab. Now, the other thing we can do is we can go back on here, and they're telling us at least 430 feet per second. If we go back to the calculator, we'll type in 430 feet per second, and we're going to calculate the arrow weight, 392 grains. We get that number a lot. So I'm thinking it is about 390 grain arrow. So almost 400 grains, but we're definitely shooting over 400 according to them. So if we can do 430 with a 390, we can probably easily do over 400. Just for fun, because the most important thing to me is not kinetic energy, it is not the draw weight, it is not the speed necessarily. The most important thing to me is the slugs. Look at the slugs, 0.748. 0.75 slugs out of the box with this crossbow. That's pretty sweet. That's pretty sweet. They really don't give us much information on here. It's a rope cocker, because look right here. There's your groove. You're going to put your rope on here, go down here and pull back. So that is a rope cocker. There's the groove for the rope cocker. I don't like how this website keeps shifting things. You know, I should be able to click on it and just look at it, blow it up, look at it, almost touch it. You know what I mean? That's what websites should give us. Now, the question here was not look at the Orion IV for me, although this is an interesting crossbow, but it was to look at the Rampage and see if that is in fact a rebranded, is Killer Instinct just a rebranded Rampage? Now, I've taken a little look at this ahead of time because I'm not overly familiar with the Killer Instinct catalog, but we do have a 430 feet per second crossbow, the Vital X 430. If we click on that and compare some of the stats, looks can be deceiving, right? We look at these two, they are a little different. The stirrup is different, the butt is different. If you look at the butt stock on this, it has a different one. But if we go back to Killer Instinct does have that butt stock design on other products. If you look here, there are other butt stocks that are similar to that. So that's not unknown as to Killer Instinct. But if we look here, they do have a very similar design. I think the short answer to the question is no, it is not. This Vital X 430 and any of the other Killer Instinct products are not simply a rebranded. They didn't just get this Hori-Zone product from Taiwan and paint it different and put a different name on it, slap a label on the box and sell it to you. It is not that simple. I think probably the long answer is this company, Hori-Zone, either builds the underlying parts or gets the parts from the same Taiwanese manufacturer who then sells them to this company. They put together their crossbows perhaps, and then Killer Instinct also purchases those similar or same parts to their specs, puts them together. These are not the same crossbow. If you look, the specs are a little different aside from those cosmetic differences and functional differences like the stock, that sort of thing. Axle to axle is different. And if we look down, the other thing I noticed was the Vital X 430, by the way, we did shoot this last year. This is a fun crossbow. It really is. If I wasn't hooked up in the SWAT architecture, you know, on the SWAT X1s, if I didn't have 3 of them and have such great success with them, this is probably the next crossbow I'd be looking at. Although there are new ones too. Some of their new ones are pretty sweet. The one with the decockability is awful sweet also. But these have a 50% let off on the Vital X 430. That is a huge, big thing on the X cams. The X cam is a major difference between this crossbow and this cheaper model. I don't know if it's cheaper, but this other model. If you look at the cams here, these are a more traditional cam, okay? And you can see once it gets cocked, you can see because of this difference here, it's not rounded. That's going to be where the hump is, so to speak, in the energy where you're drawing it back. And that will change the way that it shoots. It is not an X cam design. It might have the same limbs with different cams. It might have a lot of the same parts, but it has some Killer Instinct intellectual property, let's say, right? Some Killer Instinct proprietary parts that make it a little bit different. So I think the short answer to that question is no. The other question was, is the Hori-Zone range, which again, I think we're thinking about the Rampage, available under its own brand name in the USA? I think the answer to that, after looking at this, again, I don't know this company from Adam, I haven't looked at it before, but I think the answer to that is no. And the reason I say that is, I tried to find out more about this company. You click on contact. Some of these companies we're going to look at here in this video, they don't tell you where they're from. They don't give you any information. They're like real secretive about stuff. This company, though, if you go to the contact form, the first thing we learn is you can't contact them. It's only for people who want to sell Hori-Zone products. It's for business contact only. It's not for me. It's not for you and me to ask questions about the company. If you go down here, it says that due to international hacking issue, the link to our partner's website are temporary closed. We will open this up shortly. I don't know how long that's been on here. I don't know how long it's been closed. Don't know any details about that. They don't even give us an address or a phone number to contact this company. Website doesn't work and you can't call us. It does have a map. Their address is number 230 Baiyang 3rd Street, Feng something or other. Feng Dong Road here, and that is not in Pennsylvania. It's nowhere near the Kingdom of Bunjie. It is in Taiwan. They really don't give us an address. Down here, everything's in English. Got the copyright notice at the bottom, but says nothing of where this is or what country this is, Fengwan. So you really can't buy one of these. I don't think you can get it here. It is what it is, but it's an interesting company. It's an interesting question. So if you know anything about this company, share that information in the comments. Let's make this sort of a resource about the 3 brands that we're going to talk about in this video, and that we will have more information about them. If you know more information about the insides of Killer Instinct and whether they're sharing parts or whether it's the same company, I don't know, whatever. If you want to share that information, I look forward to hearing it. The next comment we had was, hey, Rich, you should check out the Xpedition Extraction crossbow. And so, kaboom. I'm going to do that. I got it right here. I had heard about this crossbow, actually. The next 2 that we're going to talk about, I have actually heard of these companies, for what that matters, okay? Now, this company, we're going to jump straight to, where are they from? Are we allowed to know that? And I don't see powered by chest fight. Okay, that's not helpful. Contact us. Come on, fill up. Got nice pictures. They spent a lot of money on their website. I do like that. We can contact them. This is from Iowa, Decorah, Iowa. Cool. So this is an American company, at least operating out of the United States. Let's go look at what we've got for their products, shall we? We have custom bow builder. What in the world? Those are some funny looking crossbows. Let's go to, this is getting to be more difficult. So here's one of my pet peeves right off the bat about this company. This company builds crossbows and vertical bows. And historically, I am not a fan of companies that do both. You see me with my Excalibur? Excalibur doesn't make vertical bows. They don't. They make crossbows, right? I now shoot a Killer Instinct. Do they make vertical bows? Not so much. Not so much. Scorpid here. The Scorpid, right? B3 killed that doe hanging on the wall over there on State Game Lands with B3. Remember that? And that crossbow is from a company that makes crossbows, not from a company that makes vertical bows. And that's an issue for me, okay? It is an issue for me policy-wise because I'm a crossbow purist and because I'm a crossbow hunter, first and foremost. But it is also a sign that a company serves 2 masters. I don't know if you're familiar with that saying, but you can't serve 2 masters. You can't do both. Company that does both does either one of them about half as good. Pick yourself a weapon and make that. And we go through pages here of bows and how do we find crossbows? Crossbow registration, crossbows. Here down at the bottom, quick links down at the bottom in fine print, crossbows. So I'm not buying one of these crossbows. Not going to do it. On a matter of principle, I can tell you right off the bat, it's just not going to work for me. So, and they're all on sale. Look at that, except for the Ruth Hunter. The Ruth Hunter? Ruth Hunter. Rut Hunter. Okay. The Rut Hunter 400X is not on sale, but the rest of them are on sale, and we were supposed to look at the Xtraction, I believe. Let's go back and make sure, but it was Xtraction. What do I think of that? And it might be a perfectly good crossbow, don't get me wrong. $500, I like the price, that's awesome. Originally, looks like $8.99, marked down to $4.99, save $400. It shoots 400 feet per second, up to that speed, that's great. 8 inches cocked, 7.7 pounds, 3-pound trigger, love it. Has anti-dry fire technology. Pretty much they all do in this day and age, right? Comes with a pretty standard scope. That's great. 4-bolt or 5-bolt quiver. That's awesome. 3 20-inch bolts and clip-on nocks. So they snap on the string. That's good. They clip right onto the string. That's their design. I'm not a big fan of the clip-on nocks, only because, in my experience, like with the Scorpion, if you don't use them, you don't get the same level of accuracy. That's my experience. And you can't go buying a Burt Coyote Luminoc that just slides in and I'm familiar with and it works and I love it and don't want to change. That's my own problem. I don't want to change. I know that's a whole different discussion, but this is a good, solid looking crossbow. I do like the look of it. I like black. You know, black's a thing, right? But when you look at this, I love this grip. I love this. Let's blow that up. But I love that. And I think that, you know, your hand will fit right in there. That's going to be really comfortable. It is a bullpup design because the action's back here. We probably have a safety over in here if I had to guess. Don't know if this is adjustable or not, but may not need it. If it is a bullpup design and it fits you, this feels like a SWAT X1 sized crossbow to me. Looks that way when I look at it here on the screen. So very interesting. I do like this. This is a nice crossbow. Pull the draw weight, they call it pull weight. And this is a language problem. An Iowa company speaking English, right? We didn't see this on the Taiwanese company. They referred to it properly as draw weight. Here, they're calling it pull weight. They're using these different words. They're not a crossbow company. The guy that put this on the website is just taking some specs and plugging them in here, and he's going back to vertical bows as soon as this is over with, as soon as he gets the job done. That's what I think is going on here. The pull weight, you know, an American company should have the language correct. There are specific words that we should be using to keep consistency across one manufacturer to another. Now, I understand if we're going down here and this is draw effort because of a crank and you want to put 12 pounds, still a little deceptive because you're not giving me all the information. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. Power stroke, that's the correct language. That's good. It's not, I don't know, what do vertical guys call that? What's this? But the power stroke, that's what we call them in crossbows, 15 inches. So it's got a long power stroke, giving you a lot of energy in that arrow. The specs are great on this. I know nobody who has an Xpedition Xtraction. If you have one or are familiar with it, tell us what you like, right? The specs on this read right in the box for a modern crossbow. I love it. Just a little critical of the company on its face. And maybe that's misplaced. It's my opinion. And I have a lot of opinions, right? Just like you have a lot of opinions. So that's all that is. Let me know your thoughts on that. I don't care. Sounds good. The last one I want to talk about, this is an up-and-comer. We're not going to hear less about this company. We're going to hear more. For the last year, or maybe 2, I've had people asking me, you ought to do a video on this, right? You ought to do a video on the Ballista this or the Ballista that. This is, I've just gone to their website, the Megabat Reverse, and it does not look like every other crossbow out of the box now, does it? It is a reverse draw, reverse limb crossbow, but look how the barrel going out so far. And I think they do that to avoid having short arrows. They have a longer barrel. And yes, crossbows have barrels. This is the barrel. Upon the barrel sits the rail in that flight groove. And that is a long one, still protecting it with the stirrup. Now, you put a Swhacker on there, it's going to stick out a little too far. You know what I'm saying? But that is a price that we pay. And maybe we could shorten up our arrow with custom arrows and do that to keep that Swhacker controlled and contained safely within that. Not advocating that. I like to stick with the manufacturer stuff unless you really know what you're doing and have a good reason to deviate from what the manufacturer designed it for. But if we could do that, this might be a perfect setup. I am interested in this crossbow company the more I've looked at it. This company tells us free U.S. shipping. That's great. Canada shipping. So it's free in the U.S. Doesn't say free for Canada. That might change once Trump buys Canada. No sales tags except Florida. So maybe they're shipping out of Florida. That could be what they're doing here. I don't know. They are engaged in the development and sale of compound bows and crossbows. So they are a company that's trying to do both here, although at least this website is dedicated just to crossbows. We'll go to the About Us. Maybe that'll tell us some information to find out where they are from. When I was first contacted about them and people asked questions, it was about pistol crossbows. And my response was always, I'm not interested in pistol crossbows. I don't care about that because I'm not going to hunt with a pistol crossbow. You know, times change. Maybe the day comes when that's different. But for what I do, the hunting that I do, I am a crossbow guy, a very traditional crossbow guy. And what she is doing right there doesn't interest me. That looks pretty close range, pretty limited in terms of energy and all that. And people had also asked me, what about using those pistol crossbows for home defense? That is not my preferred method of home defense. I don't have crossbows for defense. I have crossbows for a specific purpose, and that is hunting, right? That's what this is about for me. Crossbow for every home. They are sort of marketing those for home defense. You would need to keep it loaded and cocked and safely stored. And then by the time you go to use it, it's been cocked for a year and a half. I just don't see it being an appropriate method for home defense. If you are legally not allowed to have a firearm, right? Like this is your home defense, right? That's home defense right there. And if you can't have that, well, first of all, don't. You don't want to go having one of those if you're not allowed to have one. But I would get an air pistol, like a 50 caliber air pistol or something. I don't know anything about those either, but I would do that before I would do one of these for home defense. That's my thoughts on that. But where are you from, people? Where are you from, Mr. Ballista? Aren't going to tell us, are you? And we're going to go over here real quick. This is the only thing I found that indicates where this company is stationed, so to speak. info@ballista.co. And if we go over here, kaboom, .co domain is the country code for Colombia. I am not opposed at all to buying products from other countries, right? Like that's not a thing for me. I really don't care. I'm going to shop on price and features. When I'm at the grocery store, that's what I'm looking for. When I am buying a new car, that's what I'm looking for. When I'm looking at crossbows, that's what I'm looking for. So I really don't care about the country it's from, but this is a product of Colombia with no American offices that I can call on the phone and communicate with and work with. That's a problem, right? I don't really care necessarily where it's made if the price and quality is there. I mean, that's what the market's about. But if you don't have an American contact, that's a problem, right? I really like coffee, and I get that you can't buy coffee that's made in the United States. But this is Dunkin' Donuts, and that's an American company. And I can go down the street and get it, and stop and get it on the way to work, and what have you. And before I make videos, I go get an iced coffee. I get that we don't grow it here. Speaking of American-made products, I almost forgot to mention this, and I don't want to because I'm going to give you a little heads up about another video that's coming up soon. Look at this knife. This is pretty sweet. A friend of Bunjie made this for me. Can you believe that? It even has the Death by Bunjie logo on here. This is a great kitchen knife, antler handle. It's got a nice big bone handle. I can get my big old hands around it. I can use this in the kitchen, and it will be featured in an upcoming Cooking with Bunjie episode. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little video with it. But man, I really appreciate this. I told him I'd give him a shout out in a video or two, and I will do that. Logan Fleeman, Logan Steelworks Custom Made Knives. Check that out. I'll put some links in the description for you. But I'll be doing a video on this knife down the road. Pretty cool. He handmade this. Made the blade, made the handle, the whole bit. That's pretty cool. But when we're talking about crossbows, I don't want to buy a crossbow from Colombia and then have to ship it to Colombia and the next first time it breaks, or buy parts from Colombia and all that sort of thing. That can be a problem. Let's go back to crossbows and we'll look at that Megabat Reverse. Kaboom. This is, I think, their king of the hill, so to speak. And it is a nice looking crossbow. I am very interested in it. The only full-size crossbow in the world with a built-in self-retracting cord tensioner. It is the fastest loading. Megabat crossbow is the fastest loading crossbow in the world. This opens the door to many possibilities. High velocity, 450 feet per second. A very interesting crossbow design. And I think we should watch a little bit of a video here just to see.
Hey, I want to show you the Ballista Megabat Reverse. You can see it at ballista.co. It has a compact stock that can extend for different distances as far as your arms.
It is adjustable. That's cool.
Closer, you have longer arms you want. Really nice crossbow, super powerful. Shoots bolts at about 450 feet per second. With this reverse bat design, it's really nice. We put a long-range scope on it, you're good to go. This one I have sighted in for 130 yards, but I did put an aftermarket scope on it to do that with an adjustable turret from Huskema, but you can easily shoot this out. This one's sighted in for 130 yards right now, but you can easily sight it in for any other distances with the standard scope. I want to show you the major feature of the Megabat.
Here we go.
What's cool,
See those handles sticking out there?
this double handle on it.
Oh.
This is a unique cocking system that no other crossbow has. Let me show you how easy it is. First of all, you'll see that there's a really wide foot stirrup there. You can easily get any hunting move into that really easy. So you put that in, grab hold with 2 hands,
Ooh.
pull it up. People with shorter arms, shorter legs, might have some difficulty with it, but for anyone, 5, 8, 5.
All right, I'm not going to watch the whole video. It's on YouTube or on ballista.co. Did you just see how far he's pulling that back? Wow, that is long. You got to be pretty tall. I don't think it's the length of your arm so much as your height. You're going to run out of height. Genevieve has all the body strength she needs to cock most of the crossbows we have here. She can't rope cock them. And the reason she can't rope cock them is if she runs out of height, she stands up, that's going to be a problem for people. I don't know if I like the fact that those handles are on there. If we look at that crossbow, those handles, it's on both sides, and those handles are sticking out all the time. It looks like those don't detach. The original Bunjie, you cock that crossbow, put the rope cocker right in your pocket, you got it for next time, throw it right on there, store it on the crossbow, everybody's happy, no problem. This thing, a little bit of an issue with that. But it is a neat design, and I do like some of the technology here of getting the rail out this far. I do like that. The Megabat is 420 feet per second, but if you go with the reverse style, you end up with 450 feet per second. That is an improvement. That is a technological improvement. And we're looking at something that becomes a little bit wider, but will still add 30 feet per second to the arrow speed. Look at the draw weights. Wow. 330 and 360. I think 360 is the heaviest draw weight I've ever seen on a crossbow. This is a crossbow with basically Excalibur draw weights, like beyond Excalibur. I've seen 340s. There probably is an Excalibur with a 360, maybe a Raven, but that's not a common draw weight. A 10-point could get close to that or over 300, but that's an awful lot. Tell me if you can think of one that's 360. They don't even advertise that anymore. Hats off to Ballista for listing that draw weight, because that's a big thing to me. That gives me concern about this crossbow. That's a lot of stress, not just on the limbs, but on the string, the cables. That is a lot of stress on the trigger mechanism. And I get that that gives us the 450 feet per second, but draw weight is only one of the things that I think these companies should be looking at to increase speed. And it shouldn't be the first thing, because it creates a lot of tension, pressure, energy problems down the road. We do have a power stroke on the reverse that's only 12.2 inches. That's interesting. Scorpion gets 450 feet per second with 180 pound draw weight, or maybe a 200 pound draw weight, by using the lower draw weight, but a longer power stroke. That's what gives them the speed. If you had an inch or two to that power stroke, you could drop that draw weight significantly. I'm not a crossbow engineer, but I'm telling you, that's what some of the companies do. And that is what I think is a better way to achieve those level of speeds. This is a lot of draw weight on this thing. Now, you notice though, because it's a compound, right? Because it's got the cams, he cocks it very easily in terms of the tension. It's 120 pounds draw on it, which is going to be a little easier than pulling back Bunjie at its peak. Bungie's 175 pound draw weight. And at the top, you're pulling at 175 pounds. What is this? Can be loaded without a winch. That's great. That's awesome. Don't need a winch. Don't need to hook this up to your pickup or your Jeep. You can cock this thing without, horsepower. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Let's look at one other thing though. We got 450, okay, 450, but they're not telling us what arrow weight, and it's not telling me any kinetic energy. So I can't even get enough information to run our calculator. Interesting design. You will hear more from that company. And once again, if you know anything about the Ballista Bat or any of these Megabats or the Ballistas or anything like that, and you want to leave some comments, please do. It is not going to replace my crossbows of choice, at least not right now, not with this model. I think my next video is going to be on the differences, some of the differences between expensive crossbows and cheaper crossbows. Until next time, all hail Bunjie.